Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about something new that I was working on. I saw it on Reddit, so the original idea is definitely not mine. However, I noticed that in that person's gear, they kind of built the team more as a for fun team, whereas I built the team to be like extremely practical. So the team consists of basically a bleed ignore defense comp. So Haste one-shotting the first wave, Surin applying debuffs on the boss, and then Sigret with the new change to her skill 3 having a base 30% ignore. 7 debuffs is obtainable, and actually for my team it doesn't necessarily need 7 debuffs to clear. So there are a couple things I want to talk about. The first thing is that the most ideal setup here is to have 7 debuffs, obviously, so Sigret gets 100% ignore. Something to note, though, is that Sigret doesn't always skill 3. There is a rare occurrence where she'll skill 2 first. I'm not quite sure why. It will miss out on damage and debuffs, although if your General Purgus is tanky enough, it doesn't really matter as long as he's able to live 2 rotations. And for this team specifically, it's actually better not to have him on Durandal. And the reason for that is because you want all of your allies to be pushed, but you don't want him to move. So after the first wave, you don't really need him to take another turn. The only downside really to having Sigret skill 2 instead of skill 3 is that when she does skill 3 in the next rotation, she won't have attack buff. But it's not really a big issue. As you can see, as long as the gear is up to par, you'll still be able to kill through it, and it's not an issue. So I'm going to show a couple videos of how the team works and talk about it. And then afterwards, we can go through the gear and why I geared things certain ways. So I'm going to show a couple videos of how the team works and talk about it. And then afterwards, we can go through the gear and why I geared things certain ways. So the way the team works is in the first phase, General Purgus will use his skill 3, which is an attack buff and an AoE stun. The most important part about this is that it does damage, which means that I can run Elia's Knife on Haste instead of trying to kill through Portrait. Haste using Elia's Knife is really beneficial due to like the defense of the mobs. As long as they've taken damage, they will take the bonus damage from, well, the quote-unquote bonus damage. The defense will be ignored through Elia's Knife. The next part after that is that Haste must kill that first wave. If Haste doesn't kill that first wave, you lose Surin skill 2 and you waste debuffs basically. So relying on the mobs dying to bleed doesn't work. What happens in the boss stage is that the boss will attack General Purgus, everyone will be pushed up, General Purgus will be pushed down. Haste will skill 2, hopefully applying 2 debuffs, the Vampiric Touch and the Unhealable debuff. And then Surin will move and skill 2. Her skill 2 has a single and 1 turn attack break and up to between 2 and 4 turns of 2-turn dot. Or of 2-turn bleed, my apologies. So with her, I run the Torn Sleeve just for the extra chance at the debuff. It'd be best if I had a plus 30 Torn Sleeve, but I only have a plus 15, so I make do with what I have. With this, if she lands 7 debuffs, Sigret will skill 3 having 100% defense ignore due to the debuff scaling mechanic. If she misses a couple, it's not a big deal. It was a big deal back before I had 6-starred my General Purgus, but now that my Purgus is tanky enough to survive 2 rotations of the boss, I managed to usually put up 7 debuffs before my Sigret skill 3s, regardless, or she'll get the skill 2 on the second turn and still be able to kill the boss. Just going to time a run here for you guys so you can see. If we hit the 6 debuffs, I find the team generally fits around the 115 to 125 mark. If I hit everything perfectly, it should be around 50 seconds. But it's a pretty consistent time range. Ideally, the fastest run would be what the first mob hits General Purgus, so General Purgus and Haste move before the enemies move. Just saves a couple seconds. This will be another 6 debuff run, so you can see damage is going to be a little bit lower. Those debuffs doing work, saving General Purgus from dying here. and Sigret finishing it off with her skill 2 into skill 1 and taking the bleed damage. Yeah, I think once I get the 6th Awaken there on Surin and the upgraded crit damage necklace, that run should finish around 115. So let's run it again. I'll show you guys a 7 debuff time. You can see what that timing looks like. There it is. There's the 7 debuffs. And a big pop of 120k. That should be it. The sub 1 minute run there. Oh, I was a little bit short on that. So that's really why I need the 5th and 6th Awaken on my Surin, as well as the plus 15 crit damage necklace. Just that little bit of damage can save me about 10-15 seconds in animations. I haven't had the chance to test this team with any other units in terms of, going for something different than one-shots. For example, trying out, like a Seaside Bologna for skill 3 or like an Arbiter Vildred or anything like that. I really invested in my Haste and my Sigret because I saw that the team worked and I wanted to find a more consistent variation of the team. I don't know if my team is 100%. I haven't had the opportunity to test it since I've started working on General Purgus. Because my General Purgus is also only 4th Awaken, he's missing HP and defense subs. So hopefully when he's level 60 and everything's all awakened, it should be safer and I should be able to get that guaranteed 100% runs. Let's go through the gear on my team so you can see what kind of gear we're looking at. In terms of imprints, I just want to mention my General Purgus is S, which doesn't really matter. Haste has no imprints, Sigret has no imprints, and my Surin is triple S. So Surin imprint is triple S, plus 14 speed on front and back. It does kind of help alleviate the required stats for the team, but it's not super significant. The most important thing with General Purgus is to make sure that he moves before your haste. So your turn order is going to be General Purgus, Haste, Surin, and then Sigret. As you can see with my team, my units are not exactly that, 11 speed apart, but they're close enough. In the future, I would like to make that speed gap a little bit bigger just to make it work. I will note that effectiveness doesn't really matter. You don't have to stun on the first stage. You just need to get that attack buff off. So these are my General Purgus stats. I ran Carter Small Miracles just to get that extra little bit of attack for Sigret and such. It is worth noting that if your General Purgus dies while you have Carter Small Miracles, the effect will go away. So this is my General Purgus. My Haste, in terms of skill ups, the second skill doesn't really make a difference. More damage would be nice if you want to make the run a little easier. However, it is important that you have the max skill 3. That extra 15% damage at the end is very beneficial to your overall output. I use Elia's Knife due to the fact that my General Purgus will move first, and I will get the penetrate defense when attacking. So these are my stats on my Haste. I have 32, 33 attack, 100 crit chance, and 275 crit damage. The effectiveness is nice. It's kind of more of an optional feel for me. It is nice to have it higher so I can land those debuffs on the boss when that rotation comes around, but I don't feel like that is the most important aspect towards building your Haste. Something that was really important to me, though, was getting 100 crit chance. So getting 100 crit chance means that I consistently clear that first wave no matter what. The next unit in here will be my Surin. Oh, my apologies. I have everything flipped. So my Surin, also built on 100 crit, just so I can get some consistent damage out on the boss. I have above that 55 effectiveness requirement for PvE to reach the cap, and her speed is relative to the rest of it. The Torn Sleeve obviously helps due to the fact that you can get an extra bleed up there, but without a plus 30, you don't really have as much of a safety net. I don't think Surin's gear is super important for this. Ideally, she's on crit damage or does a fair amount of damage, just so it's easier for your Sigret to get that one shot in. And then we can look at my Sigret's gear. So my Sigret, I invested in her early on. I have +4 on skill 2 and a max skill 3. Max skill 3 is really important because you really need that damage dealt scaling. As you can see here, it's 50% bonus damage dealt, right? On top of penetrating defense, that's going to be an insane amount of output. So with Sigret, I run a +21 Daydream Joker. I haven't really invested in making it +30 due to the enhancement costs and the required EXP. I don't feel it's really worth it to push artifacts past 21 unless they're better. And with this being Ice Element, she only needs 85 crit rate, so I ran the 86. I wish I could push the crit damage to 350, just because that is the cap, but you know, I do the best of what I can with the gear. So that's basically it. My Sigret being 35, 20 attack, and 341 crit damage. And so to just go through everyone's gear specifically, just so you can get a rough idea of what kind of gear rolls you need, I will show you all of the gear on all my units. The necklace is definitely a placeholder. I just picked it up because it allowed me to move better gear for other slots, being able to force the destruction set like this. It is worth noting that the speed isn't super relevant on Sigret. It would be nice to go a little bit faster, so when your units move, you don't have to deal with the boss taking turns and cleansing debuffs by eating the dot or the bleed. And I should really +15 this crit damage necklace just to get a little bit extra damage out of Siren. Also, I'm thinking about 5th and 6th Awakening her, but I'm not quite invested on it yet. Currently, my team runs just fine, so it's not a big deal to me. Because I was struggling to kill consistently with haste on the first stage, I actually decided it would be best to make my General Purgus 100 crit, so his damage is always consistent. So that's why he's running a crit chance necklace. Yeah, that's pretty much it with the team. Overall, I have a couple things I want to keep working on to make it more consistent, but if you guys have any ideas on how to make it more consistent or improve the times, please let me know in the comments below. I apologize for not getting my W11 team out there. I forgot to record it before I ungeared my bike and changed her over for PvP. I was not able to get the Watcher Shuri one-shot team to work effectively. Using Diana as my attack buffer, I didn't really have enough damage in the boss stage to actually get that one-shot down. Hopefully I can pull a Celestial Mercedes in the future so that I can get that working better. The planned team for that would be Vivian, Celestial Mercedes, Watcher Shuri, and Wanda. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I worked really hard to get this team up and running and find a consistent way to have it run before I showed it off, but I'm really happy with the way the results have turned out.